You're listening to Offer Accepted, the podcast that's focused on fostering careers and growing teams in real estate. This podcast is brought to you by Pro REA Staffing, your nationwide recruiting resource for growing real estate teams. Hi, I'm Vanessa. Welcome back to the podcast. My guest this week is Rachael Ocello, and she's the executive real estate assistant to Joey Wang with the Wang Multifamily Group. They're a Keller Williams team in Walnut Creek, California. Rachael has such incredible energy and brings so much enthusiasm to her job. And this interview is just packed with valuable takeaways, whether you're an executive assistant looking to grow in your career or you have a team of your own. So some of the key things I want you to listen for today are the ways that she builds culture and community within a team that's distributed across the US and in the Philippines. And also how she uses technology to bring people together and keep everybody on the same page. This is definitely an interview you don't want to miss, and I can't wait to get into it. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. And Joey Wang is going to be on my other podcast. I have a podcast called Behind the Model, uncovering the methods and mindsets of top realtors. And on that podcast, we talk to real estate agents and team leaders about their models and methods. Whereas on this podcast, we like to speak to operations managers and executive assistants to get more of the behind the scenes view. So both of these interviews are going to be released at about the same time. And I think this is such a great opportunity to hear from a team leader and an executive assistant who are both doing an incredible job running a well-oiled and successful team. And I highly recommend that you listen to both interviews. So without further ado, let's get into this interview with Rachael. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Rachael. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. And for our listeners here, if you're listening to this on the audio only version, one of the things we're going to do today is dive into how Rachael and her team use Slack in a really elevated way. And so this will be also on YouTube, and I'll include the link to the YouTube channel in the description. So obviously listen along, but if you want the deep dive into how to use Slack for a real estate team, then you'll want to watch the other version. Okay, so let's just start with the basics. Who is Rachael? So what do you do on the Joey Wang team?
So I am the director of operations for our team, the Wang Multifamily Group. And we currently have one agent that is also the founder and the rainmaker. And we have a group of VAs as well, which I'm sure we'll get into. Originally, I started as the executive assistant, came into the job originally that way. And then I've been with Joey now for almost 4 years. Yeah, just grew into this director of operations role for the team.
Perfect. And you applied to this job even though you didn't meet the job description. And so I want to talk about this because I think this is such a great story. How did you get this job?
Yeah, this is one of the funny ones that I love telling because originally, right out of college, I was working for a mass communications PR firm and was enjoying myself, but just didn't really feel like it was the right fit for me. And I was just scrolling through Indeed and saw this position in my city for a real estate executive assistant. And I've always been really passionate about real estate. And so when it came up, I looked at the description and I said, wow, like this is something I could be really good at. I don't necessarily have the qualifications. Working in PR doesn't translate directly into real estate. But honestly, I remember the moment I said, I'm going to shoot my shot. And I just hit send and I kind of gave myself a shrug and I said, all right, no, good for me. And it was the long, extensive interview process. And I ended up getting it and beating out other candidates. And yeah, haven't looked back since. Joey and I have had a great ride so far.
I love that. There was a stat, I think it was from HP. They did a study, and don't quote me exactly on this, but something like women will only apply to a job if they think they meet 90% of the requirements, but men will apply if they think they meet 65% of the requirements. So from the employer side, it's really important that you don't put must-haves that aren't actually must-haves in your job, because you have very qualified candidates who might self-select out, and really you would have considered them. So be careful what you put in the job ad as important or required. And also, if you think you'd be a great fit for a job, even if you don't meet all the qualifications, just apply. The guys are. Just do
Yeah.
it.
I was gonna say, what's the worst case that's gonna happen? You're not
Yeah.
gonna get it and you're in the same position. So it's like you might as well. I didn't
It,
know that stat. That's crazy. But I'm
yeah, isn't
not
that
surprised.
interesting? It makes kind of
Fortunately.
makes sense. Like we see that kind of tracks, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let's talk about your job now.
So we have now 5 VAs in the Philippines, and then we have 3 VAs in the States. And then myself and I work virtually, and then Joey, the agent, and our field coordinator are the 2 local people. So team of 10, and they're 2 locals.
Okay. So how is the work distributed? Why so many employees?
Yeah, I started working with Joey. We had 1 VA at the time and 1 ISA. So we were a team of 4 and really doubled the business from when I started with him. So it got to a point where I think like it was a year and a half in, it kind of went from just let's grow my deals to let's grow an actual business. Let's create a team. Let's create the structure for a foundation to expand. And so hearing a lot of people at Keller Williams, just people in business in general, everyone will tell you that you need to fail forward, but they also say it's so important to build that strong foundation that you can jump off of. And so we felt that what was best for the business was to build this strong foundational sense of an admin team and figure out what that looked like with one agent and then bring on other agents. Where some people may do it a little differently. They may bring on the agent and then later on bring on the admin. We want to have a really deep structure set in place so then we in this expansion process and then mimic it in different cities. So it just kind of evolved. We have VAs that do a little bit of everything. Originally, the first out to Seiza, she's been with him for 6 years, even before me, and she was doing a little bit of everything. And we basically took everything that she did and took it into different roles so that every single person on our team is focused on their 20%. I think it's for that foundational component for us once it's set to jump off and bring on agents, it'll be great success.
And I think that interviewed other teams that follow a similar model. And when you talk to the founder, they'll say, well, my job is to do those top 20% activities, prospect, negotiate, close deals. I'm the rainmaker. And if I can get everything off my plate and that's all I do, I can get the most leverage. If I have to give away a deal and take a big cut on commission, that costs me so much more money. I have less control. I have less ability to build that a long lasting connection with the client. And I make less money. So it just makes so much sense to leverage my admin support to the point where I absolutely have to bring on other agents. Then it makes sense to give away a part of my commission. Until I absolutely can't do it, it doesn't make sense to do. And what you guys have done with separating out, you have US based support. I think this is exactly what I preach. Your lead EA, your executive assistant is in the US. They're probably local or semi local. It's a great idea to have your inside sales agents, your ISAs in the United States because they just can be more effective. It's a difficult role to offshore, especially if you're in a high end market like you guys are. Maybe it's different in a where the price point's 250,000, but when you're talking to million plus homeowners, or in your
Yeah.
case, probably investors, they don't want to talk to somebody overseas. They want somebody who has really like real local knowledge. But
Yeah.
then everything else, marketing, listing coordination, transaction coordination, just the regular admin follow up is stuff that can be outsourced.
Yeah, absolutely. And just all those back end things, exactly like you said, that can be it gives the agent such more freedom to be able to focus on their 20%. And we honestly, I remember when we didn't have everyone on and it's funny looking back, I'm like, we did it, but how did we do it? Because it's like we must have just been kind of crazed and a little all over the place. Whereas now we're a bit more focused, which I has helped evolve. I mean, it's why our one agent, like you said, we have higher price points. We specialize in multifamily. So it's a little bit different. There's a lot of details involved, right? Like for one agent to have to deal with all of that due diligence with tenants and everything, it's a lot. But with the back end support of our team, that's why we were able to do 44 transactions last year with one agent, grossing $60 million in closed sales. And for one agent, that's a pretty good year, right? So
Yeah, exactly. And if you're offshoring some of that admin support and you're probably paying what, 1,000 to 1,800 a month or something per
yeah,
employee, you really can afford to get great support. And I'll just mention at Pro EA Staffing, we place both US based EAs like Rachel and people from the Philippines. And I think the model of having a lead EA with giving that person backup support is such a smart move. You can, if you're at the point where you can have both people, but I would say as soon as you have a full-time US based person in place, if they're your only hire, as soon as possible, you want to get them some offshore support just for your own safety and backup, because that person could get sick, leave, one or two other things, and then you're back to ground zero. And also, they need to be able to take a vacation, take a day off. Okay, they need to have some backup.
yeah.
So,
And
for
you don't want to get everything back on your plate at that point, right? We hear all the time that you should always have two level deep of people that know the role, can take things on for the role. So if I'm out, my VAs can handle it. If my VAs are out, I can handle it. So working as that family too, and that team dynamic is so special and allows, like you said, people to be able to take long trips and stuff still get done effectively.
yeah. Well, let's talk about building that foundation a little bit more because I'm guessing that you've had to document how we do things around here. So, talk about how you've documented your systems.
Oh yes, we've gone in many directions as operational people do. But most everything really from every little task to every little subtask to the details to the templates, all of that stuff we have at our base in Asana. So we use that's our task management tool. That's what we've used since it's when it was being used when I started. It's not, in my opinion, the most scalable tool. So we are looking to go away from that and go to a more scalable tool. But for now, it's worked for our team. All the details are there. But now, really, what we've done is we tried our Hand It Tranual, which is kind of like a training manual that people can come in and take tests and learn without you necessarily being right there, which was really great for a large component. But it just wasn't a sustainable option for how many hires we were making to be paying that price. So basically, we took everything from our Tranual, which was very extensive. I'm talking about, it was like I was talking to you. My voice was through, like, hey, welcome to the team. We're so excited to have you, all this stuff. And basically, what we do is for every person, we will always have the written structure of it. We will have templates of it in Google Doc, just link the Google Doc template. And then we have video instructions. So before you even essentially meet with me or my VA to learn the process, you're reading through it, you are learning it through video to get a sense of what it is. And then we're meeting and we're doing the I do, you do, we do. Or that.
Yeah.
And that way they're able to do it. The one thing though that I've learned through that process and something that we've tweaked a little bit, which I think with VAs, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it too. But we've learned that it really is important. That's just training and saying, hey, here's the task. This is what I want you to do. If you really want them to own the role and take it on, is really explaining the why behind it. Like, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? So, what we've actually shifted to in the last couple months from some learnings is on every single Google Doc that has explanations, templates, all that. The very top of that doc says the purpose of it. And it's explaining what the purpose of this step is, why we do it, and how to think through it and some situations that can arise. And then as new situations arise, as it does in real estate, we know it changes and things come up. We can add to that doc and continue to add those different situations in to help people kind of think through them when they happen.
Yeah, that is such a good point. It's especially when someone who lives far away and doesn't have the full color and context of what's going on. If you just say, do this task and they just do that task, but they might actually, they understood how they fit into the bigger picture. They might be able to say, hey, I know this other tool that might make this easier and faster and cheaper. Or have you thought about this? Or, hey, I can also do that piece of this process. I found that especially the VAs in the Philippines, they're always looking for ways to add additional value. And so the more information they have, the more you bring them into the fold and really treat them like an integral part of the team and not this robot like across the sea,
Just
the
task.
more value you get. And really, the more they enjoy their job and the more ownership they have in it because they don't want to be a widget maker.
No.
These are smart people. These are people with college degrees. They want to be integrated. And if you give them that opportunity, they will give you so much more. And then I love this idea of putting that in the top of each description. The other thing that I teach agents, like I can imagine somebody who is just about to hire their first assistant and they're hearing
Mhm.
about all of these systems and checklists. So just remember,
A
Rome
lot.
was not built in a day.
A
This
lot.
was a process. And for us, what we've always done is when you are being onboarded onto the team and you're learning things, if you see that something isn't correct in a template that we have, then you're responsible for fixing it. The best time to update templates is when you're new and you're just learning the process because then nothing's automatic. And if
Yeah.
there's a process that there isn't documentation on, or if you're learning something and we don't have something written, you're responsible for building that. So if you're hiring your first assistant, their first 90 days is a lot of documenting what hasn't been documented yet. Would you
Yeah.
say that's
I was gonna
true?
say, from when I started to where we are now, while like you said, I feel like in this role at any point, there always is gonna be more that I could document. There's always gonna be a new tool to use. Like it's always just it's a never ending task, right? Like it's always evolving. But when you're first starting, that's one thing that was such a learning lesson from us. And that's something we took from Gary Keller as well, was the fact that have your assistant shadow you, right? Like, how do you write those emails? What is the language the agent, right? If I'm writing an email on behalf of an agent, I need to make sure I know the language, right? Like, I can't be putting my exclamation points everywhere, which I was doing in the beginning. And Joey was like, we need a little more serious tone, right? And it's those little things and those little details that I think really in the end make the biggest difference. Cause now you're able to have someone speaking on behalf of the agent from an email, from a text. And it's just those little things, right? Hop on it. If you're a VA, hop on a Zoom with an agent and just listen to them make their calls. Watch them type their emails. It's those little nuances that really in the end end up becoming your operations manual as well, right? Because that's going to be the templates of your messages.
Yep, exactly. So let's talk a little bit more about your technology. You mentioned Asana. Recap what's in Asana, and then let's talk about some of the other tools and systems you integrate.
Yeah. So Asana is our task management tool that we've used since I've been there. Again, looking to kind of shift through it, but it's worked for what we've needed it for. It essentially tracks all of the tasks throughout the transaction and also the little details of what we do, what we need to remember. So instead of myself having on a written piece of paper or remembering brain, oh, I needed to remind my field coordinator in 2 weeks to go pick up the keys, set that assignment in that in my subtask in Asana.
Mhm.
Um, it also really helps because it has all the email templates, right? One of the first things we do in multifamily is we ask for a due diligence list. I don't have to think about a thing. I just copy it in Asana, put it in my email, change the address, change things based on the city it's in, and then I send it off. It really takes the thinking of what next step is, but it also gives instructions and explanations in each of it. So if they're different or they need to be changed, you can think through that process as well.
Mhm. Okay, perfect. So that's Asana. Then what else?
Yes. Oh, we use this on our CRM, use Salesforce. So we use Salesforce for multiple things where all of our databases for our contacts. It is where we have a dashboard showing at any point what our pipeline looks like, our deal by source. So we know where they're coming from. Is it from marketing? Is it inbound ISA? Where are we seeing most success? And then Salesforce, and one of my favorite things about Salesforce is we have integrated it with Slack, which I know you had mentioned. Again, we'll get into that. It's our lifeblood. But whenever we're lead genning, right, making calls, buyers, sellers, people are reaching out to us, their contact will automatically be right generated in Salesforce. Our database manager cleans it up. That job to continue cleaning up our database and adding to it. But all I have to do is in Salesforce for the conversation I had with that contact, put a hashtag of where I want it to go in Slack. And if I reach them, if they left a message, if I disconnected, what was that conversation like? And then it just automatically sent to Slack. So now my ISAs, my agents, everyone can see that lead gen note and know the next steps that they need to do. Do they need to send them deals if it's a buyer? Do they need to send a property valuation form? Do they need to set a follow-up plan for them? Everything our that's why our Slack is constantly going all day because it's our lead gen tool and our transaction tool.
That's so cool. All right. So let's actually look at it. Are you ready to pull it up? I'm going to give you
Oh, yeah.
permission to share your
Can you see my
screen.
screen okay?
I can.
Okay, great. So this is my prospecting channel, and then this is all of our stuff. So do you want me to kind of just give a breakdown of what it is that's in here essentially?
Yeah. So what's in here and then the workflow. So how is it utilized?
Okay, perfect. So first and foremost, this is where we can direct message each other, have group messages, right? Like it's where we just kind of keep the one-on-ones and message each other.
Mhm.
We have what's called a stand up every day. So you can see here that we ask 4 questions. How are you feeling? What's something that's happened in the last 24 hours you're grateful for? What priority are you focusing on? And what else is going on today? So the goal of this, it's through an app called GeekBot, which integrates into Slack. And the goal of this is every morning and every evening, we do a startup and a stand down. And what that is you are creating a sense of culture with the team without hopping on a meeting, right? Without having a daily stand up meeting. I can go to my stand up channel any morning and understand, oh, Rachel couldn't fall asleep till 3 a.m. So she had a tough night of sleep. Maybe she's going to be a little extra tired today. Or maybe someone had a headache, or maybe something happened that is making someone emotional for the day, right? We're in a virtual world on our team for the most part. And so really understanding how people are feeling and doing is really important to us. So we use Geekbot to integrate there. And then, like I said, throughout the day, it's really our prospecting and our transactions. So each one of us who are making calls has a prospecting channel. Like I mentioned, any of our calls, this it's linked to Salesforce. They go through here. We can chat through it. We can send emails. We forward all of our emails to Slack. So then we're writing in threads for everything. You can
Wait,
see
let me
here.
pause you right there. So instead of sending emails through your email, like Gmail or through Salesforce, you're actually sending emails through Slack?
Correct. Correct. So Slack has forwarding channels. Whenever you create a channel in Slack, like for instance, this is my prospecting channel when I'm making calls to people. So when it's created, it's this little thing right here that says send emails to channel.
Mhm.
And so you copy this URL and then your Gmail just gets used to it. BCC it on every single email that you send that you want to go here. And then now when I'm sending any messages to buyers or deals to buyers, like this one, for instance, it'll be forwarded to Slack. And so everyone can see, okay, you sent those deals out. Let me check out like what you said. For transactions, it's very helpful because you can talk on threads about the next steps, right? So like, for instance, we just got into contract for this property. Here's all of the emails that have come through of documents that need to be saved, of the offer, of the what's happening next. This was my VA sent introduction, right? Congratulations on getting into contract. And now I can see that that was sent. I don't have to ask about it. I don't have to be like, what happened? She checks it off in Asana. The email sent here. I'm good. I don't need to manage micro ask what's the status of this. It's all here.
Amazing. And once the deal closes, does that channel go away?
So what we do is the channel goes away once the just sold content has been sent out. So we have in our marketing plan just sold, and they typically go out anywhere from like 3 to 6 months after the deal's closed. So that deal will just sit there. It won't get notifications. But then once it's officially like that's the last part of the puzzle is the just sold, then we archive it. So these all are either active or ones that we need to still send just sold on. And then once it is done, we archive it. And then it goes away.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Are the-
We also have a fun channel, right?
Good.
We have
Yep.
to share, our team shares things that are happening in their life in a virtual world. It's an amazing way to do it. We have a news channel, what's happening in the news, forward emails there that we get, a marketing channel that's for all of our marketing materials, and then our valuation channels as well. One of the things that we have as well too is we have our agents number through an app, Haymarket. It forwards directly to Slack. I can text for my agent directly through Slack here, and we can all see it. We can always make sure we're not leaving any messages through the cracks. I get to it. If my VA didn't get to it, I can see that a message was read. I can do something about it. Or I could see that some action is going to be needed, something about it. All of his voicemails also come to Slack. So we have this. I can look here and I can say, I can read the transcription. Is it a spam call? Is it important? Back to it ASAP. Then hey, you need to make a call to this seller. They just reached out to you. We got to get on top of this. So it really it helps hold everyone accountable, every single channel that we have, and making sure on top of our things and not missing anything.
Yeah. So you really have a command center and you have a way to really organize all the information that's coming into all of you all the time. And you guys can support each other because you're all working from the same space. Nothing's going off into the ether and you're not sure what's happening to it. It's all right here. It's very transparent, right? There's also a high level of accountability here because either the email was responded to or it wasn't, or the text was responded to or it wasn't, or the thing
Yeah,
got sent out. You guys absolutely know, and everybody is accountable because it's all transparent, which is
exactly.
so beautiful. And I love the culture piece of this. I think this is so important, especially when you're working in virtual team environments to check in. We don't know if somebody's feeling overwhelmed or tired or if something happened unless they say so. And so to have a just a standard process where everybody participates and shares like this is what's happening today. And the
Yeah.
accountability piece too, like this is what I'm working on. These are my objectives for the day. That gives
Yeah.
you the chance to say, hey, well, I see that that's on your agenda, but what's more important to me today is that you work on X,
Exactly.
whatever.
Oh, you could see here what's your priority that you're focusing on. Uh, maybe that's not aligned with what we should be focusing on right now. Let me just ping you and chat about that. Right. So it's exactly like you said, ability component. And we also have, see here, all you do for Geekbot is you would just type, you want to do a new report. We have workflows as well for weekly stand up and monthly ones as well. So at any point, every Sunday, we're doing our weekly, and then every month we're doing our monthly. And it's basically showing what are your wins, what are your priorities for the month. So again, we're all just on top of understanding each other's GPSs and what's going on.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much for sharing this. I've just never seen anybody like really dive into Slack to this level. And what a cool way to run a distributed team and keep everybody on track. Very cool.
I told you I at some point should be a salesperson for Slack. I'm like, I talk about it to everyone.
That's so cool. So what's next for you guys? Like, where are you in your process of building the team?
Yeah. So with that process right now of Joey's the sole agent still. We focus on listings, but trying to build out that buyer side. So really focus on a process that helps buyers in multifamily. A little different, right? With investors, it's not necessarily that some of them, yes, it's a place for them to live. So it's that emotional connection, that sense of urgency is there. But a lot of the times it's a bit more of a just does the numbers work? And so figuring out how to best speed up that process for people and them and always get deals in front of them. That's the job of our business analyst. So he's really building out that side of the business. And then we're looking to start bringing on new agents. We specialize currently in Berkeley and Oakland, and we do throughout the East Bay, but those are two primarily in the East Bay where we focus on.
Mhm.
We're trying to get Joey to just focus on one city and start bringing on the local hyper-local experts in the other areas. That's the goal is when we start expanding to have hyper-local specialists. who are so knowledgeable about every block of the area and their clients and work cohesively as a team with the other agents in our team to find deals happen for each other. So we're in that process of beginning to look to bring on some other agents, and that's kind of the Q2, Q3 part of our year.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure to include your contact information. So if any agents are listening and you're hyper local to that area and interested in joining a team like this one, definitely reach out. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachel. This was so insightful. I love your energy and what you and Joy have built together. I so appreciate you sharing all of that. And hey, you guys, if you're looking for a job like Rachel's in real estate, make sure to go to proreastaffing.com and check out our open jobs. And if you're looking for your next Rachel, make sure to reach out to us as well. We can help you find your next key hire. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much.